Deputy Presiding Officer, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Chief Secretary for affording me the opportunity almost exactly 1 year ago to serve as a Councillor and Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy in this August administration under which I now work, reside, and am now appointed. I also want to thank the Presiding Officer, the Honorable Chief Secretary for his leadership as well over the last year. He has also given me the opportunity to leverage on certain projects. He has also laid the foundation for me as Secretary of Finance to advance some of the projects that he has started while he was Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy. I also want to extend thanks and a gratitude to my colleagues for the support over this year. I think that it was very overwhelming, and what you have seen produced on Monday is testament of your overwhelming support and your contributions to this budget, because this was not all entirely my presentation, but this was a presentation that came from each and every one of you so that we can compile such an excellent presentation. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is unfortunate, though not surprising, that the poor minority leader who sits all by his lonesome lacks the sense, the experience, the exposure, or even the political discernment to know that Tobago has rejected the PNM not only for 21 years, but we are now on 24 years of rejection. And I think that that deserves some thumping. He continues to come to this honorable house and cannot seem to develop any debating skills. I'm only here for 1 year, and what I've seen is pre-prepared speeches with the same rhetoric. He has an obsession with the Secretary of Infrastructure here and the contractors that are being paid on the road, and that is just it. He now has a recent obsession of ambulances, and that is what I have seen here today. And then talk about what we will do. I don't know will do when, how, with whom. The people of Tobago have spoken, and I don't understand why he came today with a manifesto when the people have outrightly rejected the PNM for the last 24 years. If I might say so myself, the presentation that was enunciated and articulated by me was insightful, strategic, it was coherent, visionary, well articulated, comprehensive, and you know, I spoke to the public, so I'm not just speaking and gloating by myself. I oftentimes take telling from people. And what the layman on the street is saying is the first time they're able to understand and follow a budget presentation, both because of its content and the length of time it took to present a plan to the people of Tobago. I also want to boast of the Chief Secretary's leadership. We now have a strategic planning pathway from 2025 to 2045. And it also articulates 21 development agenda priorities that will lead Tobago to becoming the greatest little island on the planet. And that plan has started in this fiscal that we are now debating here, fiscal 2026, where Tobagonians will now see the plans for the period 2025 to 2045 being rolled out for the next 20 years. You know, I take credit for the approach taken by the minority leader. His approach was one where there was absolutely no way he could go to that budget statement and criticize. What he did was talk about their failures for 21 years. He spoke about payment to contractors for the road, this infamous road. And, you know, I'm happy he highlights the road, because that's a road that we take pride in trekking on and driving on every day. And we will continue to do these types of projects in Tobago, notwithstanding the failures that we experienced for 21 years. We really started in a minus, because we started with liabilities of over $1 billion. This is the only administration that has inherited liabilities of such a quantum. And I'm very serious when I say that we have started in the minus. It is not funny. It is not just talk. And I am telling you as Secretary of Finance the difficulties that we have. That when they say we have the most in numerical terms or nominal terms of the resources or releases from Trinidad, we have the largest liability to also contend with. And the financial instruction says that we must pay off the commitments from the previous years first. But I want to tell Tobagoans the difficulties in paying off the inherited development program liabilities that we are still currently faced with. When I sat as Chief Management Accountant under the Office of the Chief Secretary was the Secretary of Finance, and with the experience that I had, he wanted to find the best way that we could deal with these resources. So what we had to do is go through the invoices for every single liability that we had on the books for about 9 contractors, about 9 or 11, I can't remember. And what we did, the largest contractor, we went through the invoices and we saw double invoicing. You know what double invoicing means? Double invoicing means that they said that they built a road in Mason Hall from point A to point B, and it cost $5 million, and that's invoice number 1. Invoice number 4 has the same road in Mason Hall, point A to point B, with the same amount of money. So there was a lot of double invoicing. We also found that they're saying that they built a road with bitumen. And what we do in the assembly, people don't know, before we pay an invoice at the Division of Infrastructure, the engineers have to physically go to the road, physically go to the project, because they have to certify the invoices. And some of these invoices had bitumen or asphalt, and it was clear that they were concrete roads. And the result of that was that we had to now call in the contractor and say, listen to me, these are some of the encumbrances. These are some of the inconsistencies that we are seeing with your invoices. And therefore, what do we do? You know what the contractor said? He was most surprised that this kind of business was operating under his nose. And it's for that was one of the reasons why we could not pay some of these invoices. Apart from the fact that the resources, the development program resources, were not sent to the Tobago House of Assembly. So for the minority leader to stand and say that we have these liabilities and we don't want to pay, we don't just pay invoices. I am a Secretary of Finance, and this is an administration of accountability and transparency. Yes. And therefore, I heard him also say for the loan guarantee program, there's an entrepreneur that we should be calling. We don't call people. That's not the type of business that we do. We have a loan guarantee program also where persons must go to the banks. And then we stand guarantee. We don't call any entrepreneur and say, hey, we have this. That is P&M style. And therefore, that type of governance no longer operates in the THA and the Tobago space. Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to also say that I don't think the minority leader understood, or he doesn't have the intelligence and ability to conceptualize a long-term development plan for Tobago. The plan also articulated a matrix for the next 5 years, and it was clear in the budget statement. And I want to say, if the minority leader wishes to lead, he must first learn. And if he wishes to influence, he must first understand. And I find that it was very unfortunate that he came here without even listening. He didn't even have to read the budget statement, as I read every word. So he could have just sat there and tried to soak in something and find something about the budget presentation to come and criticize. But what he did is brought, as I said, the failures of 21 years under the PLM, the road and the contractors that were paid for work that they did, as well as ambulances. I find that very unfortunate. And for those persons who are looking on and wants to have a career in politics, I don't think this is a good example for people to try to emulate. I want to remind also I want to speak on the point of the data. He said that the data that I presented in the budget was suspect. Made sure I wrote down the word, what he said is suspect. And Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to say that the data for the last 25 years was done by a study. There's a study of survey of business establishments done by the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy, of which the Secretary has no business in. The Secretary does not get involved in. There's a department has been doing that for the last 25 years, so the data resides, or the data is collected by that department, and therefore, for the last 25 years, that's where the data came from. And the data is actually used to provide context, credibility, and transparency in the budgeting process. The inflation data were provided from the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, and also the labor market data comes from the CSO. So to say that the data that I presented is suspect, I think that for the last 25 years and 21 years under the PNM, the data may have been suspect as well. It means that we probably have to data provided over the last years. But I must say this, I have confidence in the three entities that have presented the data for us. We have the data for the last 25 years, and I therefore want to say I have confidence in the Economic Management and Research Unit, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Central Statistical Office. I would like to put that on record, that I do have confidence in the figures that they have presented to us. Deputy Presiding Officer, as I wrap up the debate today, I want to tell the people of Tobago that, you know, there were lots of challenges, and I really don't want us and my colleagues to harp on those challenges. To harp on the challenges that we have faced over the years, because we have done a fantastic job, and I want to echo the sentiments of the Honorable Chief Secretary and Member for Lansome Palatave Speyside, that we have done such a fantastic job, notwithstanding the financial challenges we faced, the political interference, fiscal subjugation, all of these things, and we were still able to achieve for the people of Tobago in 3.5 years all the things that, and I couldn't even include all the accomplishments in the statement, because that might have taken me to 4 hours. And I did promise that this budget statement will do. But we intend, this administration intends to publish, make a publication of all our achievements, because I think it is noteworthy and representing for the people of Tobago. We cannot afford to confuse motion with progress. Tobago people deserve better than what we have experienced over the last, I would say, 24 years, because we had the People's National Movement at the central government level. And I would like to put on record here that with what I'm seeing here, that this seemingly cooperative government in Trinidad at the central government level, I feel hopeful, I feel confident that the plans that we have for Tobago under the strategic development planning pathway, the 21 development program agenda priorities, all the policy, the macro policies that were outlined in the budget for fiscal 2026, that we will be able to achieve the short-term and long-term objectives in Tobago becoming the greatest little island on the planet. Deputy Presiding Officer, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to thank my colleagues as well for your contributions to the debate and for the support for this budget 2026. I thank you very much. My apologies. Be it resolved that this House approve the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure respecting all functions of the Tobago House of Assembly for the financial year October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026, copies of which were laid on the table at the earlier stage of the proceedings. Deputy Presiding Officer, I would like to ask that we move to the committee stage. I think it would be off camera, so I will now ask that we move to the committee stage so we can approve the draft estimates of expenditure and revenues. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, we will now move into committee stage.